An unassuming employee at a weaponry company learns that a military energy drink is transforming his coworkers into psychotic maniacs. Desmond Brimble works as an accountant at Amotech Weapons Manufacturing, the world's leading innovator of weapons of mass protection. He's always been tardy, and as he arrives at Amotech, the guard, Clarence, doesn't let him in without his gate pass. With this, Desmond ends up filling in a form just to get in. As soon as he gets inside, he quickly catches up to his friend Samantha. In the elevator, Samantha jokes about his tardiness, so she gives him a watch so he won't get late again. Desmond briefly thanks her. Then he sneaks his way into his cubicle without his boss noticing. A few minutes later, Adam Nussbaum, his boss, calls him to go to his office. As Desmond gets up to go there, Helen, the secretary, insists on opening the door despite her sluggish movements. When Desmond gets inside, Nussbaum comments about him being late again. However, he says that he doesn't care about this, and all he wants is for him to submit the Clayton report as soon as possible. He also reminds him to put his best foot forward, or he'll get fired. Desmond then returns to his cubicle, but his coworker, Lentworth, asks if he got fired. He then starts talking about how Altria, another weapon manufacturer, is laying off its staff, and soon enough, Amotech will too. Murad Haryana joins in on the conversation, and he claims that it's already happening because one of their friends' desks is empty, so she must have been fired. As Lentworth and Murad start panicking, Desmond reassures them that they'll be fine. Suddenly, Marcus Gant, a nepotism kid, butts in and laughs about how they'll get fired while he gets promoted. As Marcus taunts Lentworth that he'll definitely get axed, Nussbaum calls him to head to his office. Desmond and Murad can only shake their heads, knowing Lentworth's fate. Just then, Dr. Nicholas Fromm calls Desmond to head to the Research and Development Center. As he goes there, he starts recalling the strategies on how to survive in Amotech's hostile work environment. First, you must always have a clipboard in hand because the busier you look, the more invisible you become. Second, know the lingo, especially if you get cornered. Third, if others pull you in, don't give them anything useful, or they'll expect it every time. Desmond executes this by purposely giving a lame slogan when his coworker asks him for one. Fourth, the higher the office, the more arrogant the people are. 5. The people who process the orders are the ones in power. Desmond finally makes it to R&D, where he meets with Dr. Fromm. Fromm then starts complaining about how long it takes for Desmond to process his orders. Just then, he detonates a tester missile that shoots a pig's carcass, which explodes all over Desmond. This makes Fromm laugh, but he suddenly gets serious when another scientist calls him. Meanwhile, Desmond is beyond pissed, so he starts thinking about the extra strategy, which he calls 5B. Here, he chooses to make Fromm's life hell by losing the paperwork. As Desmond is about to leave, he overhears Fromm's conversation with another scientist, saying that something is not ready yet. After this, he does the 6th strategy, which is to practice breathing techniques. In reality, he means getting high in a storage room with Lentworth and their other coworker Ralph. He then heads back to his cubicle, where he recalls the 7th strategy, working on his personal agendas. He sees this as a backup plan, so he develops a game where the main character cruises through a grocery store while being high. When Desmond gets bored, he bothers Murad while he's working. He then talks about how he loves working at Amotech because he gets to work on his game. Murad, on the other hand, thinks that he's staying because of Samantha. Just then, everyone gets called to the motivational seminar. On their way there, Samantha asks Desmond about the pig incident earlier, and she reminds him not to mess up again. She then sets up an alarm on the watch she gave, telling him to come by her office tomorrow to tell her how impressed Nussbaum is with his report. During the seminar, Franklin Gant, Marcus' uncle, presents their newest product, Zolt, an energy drink that claims to awaken the warrior within. Meanwhile, Desmond leaves the vicinity to work on his Clayton report. On his way out, he sees a bunch of workers delivering the said energy drink. When Desmond gets home, he immediately heads to his room to work on his report, but his roommates want to play a makeshift game of Mario Kart with him. At first, he refuses, but he ends up joining them anyway. However, this results in spelling errors in his whole report the next day. He still heads to work, but when he gets to the gate, Clarence is nowhere to be found. He suddenly sees the scientist that Fromm was talking to the other day, but he quickly drives away. Desmond then enters the office, but he fails to notice that the receptionist has a broken mug buried into his nape. Because he's in such a hurry, he also fails to see that the entire office is splattered with blood and is filled with dead bodies. When he finally reaches his cubicle, Nussbaum calls him to his office. He prints his messy report before heading there. When he gets to the office, he finds his boss sharpening pencils while oddly smelling them. And he's also talking about making dirt pancakes and exporting them to Africa. Then, to Desmond's horror, he finds a dead man with tons of pencils stabbed into his back. Nussbaum laughs, saying that he killed him because he misspelled something. Hearing this, Desmond panics as Nussbaum reads his report, and true enough, he finds an incorrectly used word. However, Desmond averts his wrath when he justifies his work. Nussbaum calms down but gets enraged again when he finds his name spelled wrong. Nussbaum then throws Desmond into the door, sending him flying outside. The other employees then reveal heal themselves, and they're all acting like psychopathic zombies. They start chasing Desmond, but he manages to hide in a nearby cubicle. There he sees his coworker Carter, who's crazily typing while chugging on Zolt. Carter screams at him to leave, and when Desmond realizes that he's dangerous, he cautiously makes his way out. However, he accidentally unplugs his computer, which leads Carter to attack him. Desmond fights back, but Carter is way stronger than him. As he continuously gets beat up, he gets a hold of a clipboard, which he smashes into Carter's head. Carter then slips, and the clipboard impales his head, ultimately killing him. He then tries calling for help, but the in-house operator on the other side of the phone gets killed by her supervisor. Desmond realizes that he has to save himself, so he takes a clipboard and tries to act busy to make himself invisible as he escapes. However, as he passes by the rampaging marketing team, they toss a decapitated head to him, asking him to give a slogan. Desmond tries not to freak out, and he gives out a lame slogan like usual. For some reason, the team buys this, allowing him to leave unscathed. Before he can leave, his watch's alarm goes off, which reminds him of Samantha. He hurriedly heads to her office, but when he arrives, he finds she's already consumed half of a Zolt can. He stops her from drinking more, causing the drink to spill. Samantha gets enraged and starts attacking Desmond. Samantha then pins him to the table, trying to get him to copulate with her. However, Desmond smacks her head with a book, rendering her unconscious. Knowing how unpredictable she can be, Desmond ties her to a trolley so they can leave together. They then take the stairs, but they're forced to hide in a storage room when they find a mob of angry employees approaching them. As Desmond peeks through the door, he finds Nussbaum forming a mob of his own. Just then, Murad attacks him, but he pins him to the wall, thinking he's infected. However, Murad justifies himself and says that he's fasting for Ramadan, thus he hasn't consumed Zolt. Just then, Samantha gets wild again, so Desmond covers her mouth, which results in his finger getting bitten. Meanwhile, Nussbaum gets into an argument with Bob and his mob of Amotech marketing minions. Nussbaum wants Bob and his team to honor him as the leader, but Bob argues that the marketing team is superior to accounting. He says that they make a reality out of nothing. Then he tosses a Zolt can to Nussbaum. Nussbaum then proves that he can also make a reality out of nothing. Using the Zolt can that Bob tossed, he creates a shuriken and decapitates his head with a single throw. After this, he tells his angry mob to kill the two employees who came up with a campaign he hated before continuing their rampage. Meanwhile, Samantha becomes sane again, and Desmond tells her that she almost bit his finger off. Murad reminds them that they must escape, so they all agree to use the stairs. However, it's filled with rogue employees, so they resort to using the elevator. This also proves itself useless, as the employees have destroyed the cables. With no choice, they try the ventilation shafts, but they can't fit Samantha in. Because of this, they hide in the nearest office, where Desmond thinks about breaking out of the window. As he smashes a monitor on the glass, Samantha and Murad try to stop him, but it's too late. It turns out that this triggered the anti-terror system feature, which safeguards the building from rocket attacks. Desmond only skimmed through the employee training booklet, so he's unaware of this, resulting in unintentionally locking themselves in the building. Murad rants about this, but Samantha reminds him to be thankful that Desmond stayed. They then think about how to open the security seal, and Murad answers that only top management can make this possible. With this, they decide to go through a whole floor of angry employees just to get to the executive level. On their way, they encounter Helen, who's still sluggish even after drinking Zolt. Desmond then smashes a vase on her head, but she suddenly disappears and ends up jumping on Murad's back. However, Murad wall-butts Helen, which beats up her face. Samantha can't believe that they did this to an 80-year-old woman, but the men justify that it was self-defense. After this, they go through the human resources department, where Samantha works. When they get there, they find Lentworth, who only came to get his last check while unaware of the current crisis. He freaks out when he sees a corpse on the floor, which leads the HR team to corner him. Desmond then tries saving him by announcing to the PA system that there's a meeting. This almost works, but Murad and Samantha accidentally gain their attention. The employees aim to attack them next, but Samantha suddenly reveals some gossip that one of the HR women has been spreading. This makes the others angry at the woman, and they end up killing her instead. Together with Lentworth, the team gears up as they plan to cruise through the executive level. Before they go, they agree to free Samantha, but she tells Desmond to kill her if she goes rogue. Finally, it's time for them to cross the executive level. The angry employees stop in their tracks when they see the team, and despite Desmond's attempt at explaining that they only mean to pass by, the employees still go for the kill. With no choice, the team fights the angry employees and kills them one by one. Meanwhile, Desmond finds a sane employee in the middle of the rampage, but Murad, who's unaware of this, accidentally kills him. Seeing how freaked out he is, Desmond decides not to tell him the truth. After this, the team heads to Franklin's office, but he and his executives refuse to let them in. Just then, a janitor walks out of the room, so they conveniently use the opportunity to get in. When they enter Franklin's office, his executives cautiously guard themselves against the team. However, Franklin settles the opposing sides. Then he agrees to discuss disclose the information about Zolt over a glass of scotch. He explains that Zolt was designed to make soldiers more awake. However, when one of From's scientists got disgruntled, he distributed the drink to everyone, which led them to their dilemma. Franklin doesn't have a concrete plan to solve the problem, and he also doesn't have an antidote. However, Desmond isn't okay with this, as he wants to save Samantha. This drives him to threaten Franklin, but he reminds him that only his thumbprint can open the security seal. He also adds that only From knows what's truly happening, and they have to get to his office to talk to him. Suddenly, Nussbaum and his team summon Franklin from outside the office, demanding he rescinds the security seal. Franklin laughs, saying that his door is made of 2-inch thick titanium steel tempered alloy. However, this only leads Nussbaum to destroy the walls instead, which were cheaply made. Realizing this, Franklin tells everyone to gear up. Meanwhile, Desmond hides Samantha because she's too weak to fight. On the other hand, Murad is losing the will to live, but Desmond inspires him by telling him that he's his third best friend. As they prepare themselves, they discover that Letworth took some Zolt. He claims that they're a lost cause, so he'd rather join the others for a chance to get his job back. However, as he goes to the employees, Nussbaum slams an axe into him. Nussbaum then tells everyone to attack, and they end up killing the executives. Meanwhile, Franklin protects the others with a shotgun while Desmond assists him. As Franklin gets hyped over his kill streak, Nussbaum suddenly chops his hand off, then kills him by shooting his head with the shotgun. After this, Nussbaum claims that he'll dominate the world before taking Franklin's amputated hand. He leaves the team to the bloodthirsty employees, but Desmond kills them in one go when he shoots a bowl full of bullets. Just then, Samantha falls to the floor, and she's getting more ill. Meanwhile, Nussbaum plans to expand his empire by distributing Zolt worldwide. Elsewhere, Desmond and Murad take Samantha to From's office, where Desmond punches him as soon as he enters. It turns out that From took credit for Zolt from another scientist, which led the scientist to weaponize it against everyone. However, From tells Desmond that he's also to blame because he denied him his order, which drove From's team to use alternatives to finish Zolt in time. This shocks Desmond, but he shrugs this off and asks From for an antidote. From then explains that he can reverse the damage on Samantha because she didn't take a full dose of Zolt. However, they only have 30 minutes left to make the antidote. With this, they need a vial from the warehouse, which is filled with Nussbaum's minions. Before leaving, Desmond and Murad pettily punch From in the arm. After this, they gather a bunch of weapons and prepare for battle. When they get to the warehouse, they witness Ralph being killed by the employees. Just then, Nussbaum sees them through the security footage and tells everyone to kill them. Panicking, Desmond slides 2 landmines on the floor, hoping someone will step on them. When this fails, Murad uses a flamethrower to threaten the employees. However, it eventually runs out of gas, so he and Desmond end up running for their lives. A few minutes later, they find the right opportunity to shoot everyone and kill most employees. After this, they successfully retrieve the vial for the antidote, but before they can leave, Nussbaum shoots at them with his exoskeletal bot. As they hide from Nussbaum's bullets, Desmond tells Murad to take the vial to From. Murad doesn't even hesitate, and he runs for his life, but he soon gets attacked by Marcus. Murad decides to fight back, mercilessly beating up Marcus and screaming in rage. This attracts the surviving employees, but when he shows them how fierce he is, they back away, allowing him to escape. Meanwhile, Desmond fights Nussbaum and his minions with a single machine gun. As he tries to run away, the bot runs out of energy. Coincidentally, Marcus happens to be next to them, so Nussbaum rips out his arm and uses it as fuel, which is one of the bot's special features. Just before Desmond gets shot, Samantha shoots Nussbaum with her gun. The antidote worked, and now Samantha is telling him to escape with her. Soon after, Desmond, Samantha, and Murad run toward the exit, but Nussbaum chases them. They try killing him with the bombs they placed all over the building, but the detonator seems to malfunction. With this, Desmond slides in one of the landmines, which Nussbaum unknowingly steps on. Just as they reach the exit, the whole building explodes as the other bombs also detonate. Desmond then kisses Samantha, while Murad pees in front of the cops who have just arrived at Amotech.